Welcome back to Facts and Opinions with Don. I'm Donald January Jr. As usual, it's a pleasure to have you. Thanks for being here. In the first of this two-part discussion about the good and bad sides of the media, I started by talking about the power of the media and the influence that the media has had on the United States of America since before the United States of America was even a country. I discussed the potential dangers of sensationalism in the media and talked about how the media uses sensationalized stories to sway public opinion and to tap into the emotions of the masses. I also urge you to be mindful that the media is sometimes used to get you or I to behave or think in ways that's not consistent with who we normally are. Remember that it's up to you to sort through the lies and the half-truths to get to the bottom of every story. It's also your responsibility to maintain a level head when watching, reading, and researching the stories that matter to you. The link to part 1 of this discussion will be down in the description. Thanks again for taking the time to be here. And without further ado, here's part 2 of mainstream media, the good, the bad, the mind tricks. Let's talk about lies and blatant misinformation from the media, what many people today are calling fake news. What is fake news and why is it so dangerous? I'll tell you why. If everyone was objective, if everyone fact-checked, fake news would be totally irrelevant. But some people are taking these fake news stories and taking them to heart and believing that they're real and taking action based on that. So let's talk about the Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria story. Based on an article that he read, a North Carolina man believed that the Clintons used Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria in Washington as a front for a pedophile sex ring, and he went to the pizzeria to investigate and help the children. He even went armed and let off a round while he was there. This is why fake news is so dangerous. Fact check, people, and don't take action and get upset based on something that you read before verifying that it's actually true. Let's talk about President Obama and how many people are calling him a Kenyan Muslim terrorist. I pulled up some facts to support what I'm going to tell you. I'll start with the Constitution to debunk this. The U.S. Constitution states, "No person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to the office of the President. A Kenyan cannot become president." You can't even get a basic security clearance to work at a dock or a port or many jobs in the military without first getting a thorough background check. These background checks vet every aspect of your life and your past. I know because I've gotten these checks in the military and as a civilian. Many people don't understand how this works, but if you know how ridiculous it is to think that the president has all these past terrorist ties and he somehow slipped through the cracks and became president. That's ridiculous. I see fake news stories all the time, and sometimes I have to admit I have a hard time believing that some people actually believe this stuff, but they do. This is why I encourage you, fact check everything. So let's talk about news sources. First, you have your internet-based media, which anybody can post to the internet. You don't have to have any credentials. All you have to do is have an internet connection. Boom, done, out to the cyber world. Always be careful and make sure you're vigilant and fact checking everything that you read online. Then you have local news. Local news generally does a really good job of reporting what's going on in your area or your city. Now, when it comes to national or international matters, the local news doesn't always have someone on standby, or they don't always have the means to send somebody to cover the story. Many local news agencies that don't have access to these big stories, these international stories, they go to major media outlets like the Associated Press, Reuters. I'm sure you've heard of these. So what happens with these major news outlets like Associated Press and Reuters, they'll take one story and push it out to all of these news outlets that subscribe to them. So now what you have is thousands of news outlets getting the exact same story and pushing it out to the masses. If that's ever misused, do you see how big of a deal that could be? Now let's talk about network news. Your CNNs, your MSNBCs, your Foxes. These are the news outlets that do have reporters and journalists all over the world. and I don't know who they answer to, but it's at their discretion to put out the right thing. Fact check, cross check, go out and find as much information as you can rather than blindly trusting any news source. There are also several fact-checking websites out there. Snopes.com, factcheck.org, and PolitiFact.com are a few that come to mind. There are many good journalists and reporters out there, but I advise you to never blindly trust anyone when it comes to issues that affect you, your family, your country, and the world. And when you watch or read something that's clearly heavily biased, recognize that that person is not trying to inform you. They're trying to force their opinion down your throat. Again, I urge you, go to multiple sources and fact check everything. If this video added any value to your life, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I look forward to talking to you again in the future. Once again, this is Facts and Opinions with Don. I'm Donald January Jr. Until next time, thanks for being here.